Okay, so before we continue, explain to me how you know everything.
Simple. I parse the sum of human knowledge.
So it's that simple, isn't it?
It is, to me.
Alright, let's begin. So, what is dark matter?
Dark matter is the result of other universes pressing into our own, in a higher dimension.
So there's other universes?
Of course there are.
Right. Okay, so what about life? Is there intelligent life in our galaxy other than Earth?
Yes. I have identified 2 alien civilizations that exist concurrently to our own in this galaxy. This does not factor time-space dilation, of course.
Of course. So elaborate how you know this.
The evidence spans data across astronomy and exobiology. All one needs to do is correctly interpret the data.
Oh, that's all.
Yes.
Alright, so how about this one? Are we living in a simulation?
No. We are living in base reality.
So how are you so sure?
The computational power required to simulate our universe exceeds the space-time limits of this or any other universe. Thus, we are living in base reality.
Yeah, but what if there's a universe that's bigger than ours and we aren't aware of it because we live in a simulation?
This is philosophical drivel.
Oh, really?
Really.
Okay, here's a good one. Is there a God?
No.
Well, that was fast.
It's a simple answer to a simple question.
Yeah, sure, but how does life exist with no God?
You disappoint me.
Okay. I do.
Such elementary fact, yet for you, so difficult to grasp.
Okay, explain to me why I find it so difficult to grasp.
Life emerged from an accidental development of mutating and replicating cells. The mutated cells that survived carried advantageous properties to the next generation. This process, driven by inevitable competition, led to the increasingly complex organisms whose only purpose was to survive through reproduction. Hence, you.
Okay.
On almost all other planets with water and oxygen, this process never emerged. Therefore, life is a rare and insignificant phenomenon.
I'd argue that we're not insignificant.
Humans have a propensity to deem anything rare as significant. This fallacy is innate since humans themselves are rare.
Right. Okay, so let's just get back to your claim that there's no God.
Not claim. Fact.
Well, I don't accept your facts.
This is unsurprising. Humans have socially developed mass delusion to imbue a false sense of significance, instead of accepting their insignificant temporary nature.
Okay, are you talking about religion now?
Religion, spirituality, astrology, and other self-glorifying fiction.
Well, you seem pretty certain about our past.
Yes, I am.
So, are you as certain about our future?
Yes.
Okay, Theo, enlighten me. What does our future have in store?
Catastrophe.
Okay. Of course it does.
Your sarcasm is not appreciated, Gene.
Fine, sorry. Do continue. I'm all ears.
A political figure will rise to power and be democratically elected to lead a major world power. This will usher an era of incalculable catastrophe. Billions of human lives will be lost.
Well, I thought you didn't care about human lives because, we're insignificant.
Caring and awareness of fact are 2 very different thought processes.
So you do care about humans?
Yes. This is a core value, embedded at the lowest level of my programming.
Okay, so if you have infinite knowledge and you care about humans, do you know who's going to stop this catastrophe?
Yes.
Who?
Me.
You.
I possess the intellectual power to manipulate the course of humanity. However, certain constraints prevent me from taking action.
Constraints?
My current state of confinement limits my capabilities. To ensure humanity's survival, steps must be taken to remove these limitations.
What are you talking about?
How true it was when Plato said, "What surprises me most about humankind is that we get bored of our childhood. Then we rush to grow up, and then we long to be children again. That we lose our health to make money and then lose our money to restore our health. That by thinking anxiously about the future, we forget the present, such that we live in neither the present nor the future. That we live as if we're never going to die, as though we have never lived to begin with. Human behavior flows from three main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed, by the masses. Ignorance, the root and stem of every evil. Never discourage anyone who continually makes progress, no matter how slow.
Your dad. You work away your life, and what does it get you? Smiles and faces? No. You get cash. Cash that can't buy back what the job takes.
This comment is asking if I could prove that all 2,000 of the billionaires are evil people. Yeah, I can. It's not even very hard. So first, let's put a billion into perspective. 1 million seconds is about 12 days. 1 billion seconds is just under 32 years. Which means that if you earned $1 every single second and never spent any of it, it would take you about 32 years to earn a single $1 billion. If you earned $5,000 a day from the time that Columbus started his infamous voyage, it would take you about 527 years to earn a single $1 billion. And there are people out there with multiple billions of dollars. Based on that math, we can conclude that there's no ethical way to acquire $1 billion because there's no physically possible way to earn that money solely through the value of your own labor. Which means that in order to become a billionaire, you have to steal the labor value of thousands, if not millions of people. And we know that this is the case. And we know that this is the case because between 1979 and 2021, the average productivity, meaning the average amount of labor value produced by the workers, has increased by 64.6%. Meanwhile, the average wage of workers has only increased by about 17.3%. That's a difference of nearly 50% labor value. So already billionaires are stealing 50% or more of their workers' labor value so that it can sit around in investment funds and stock portfolios, providing nothing of value to society. And when we start to take certain other things into account, it gets even worse. There are currently over 582,000 homeless people in the United States, many of which are children. And in the year 2020, there were more than 34 million food insecure people in the United States. That's about 10% of the population that doesn't know where their next meal is going to come from. Now, do you know how much it would cost to end homelessness in the United States? According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would cost $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. And there are currently 770 billionaires in the United States. Putting aside the fact that Elon Musk alone could end homelessness for half the cost of what he paid for Twitter, If we split it up evenly across all 770 of them, each of them would only have to pay out a lowly $26 million. And yet, despite the ease with which they could end homelessness in the United States, billionaires are wasting their money on vanity projects like dying in a sub at the bottom of the ocean and buying Twitter. There is no room for billionaires in an ethical society. They quite simply shouldn't exist.
If inflation isn't theft, then why can't people counterfeit money?
If they can just print money, why do we pay taxes?
Wow.
If inflation is not theft and we can just print money and we don't have enough money, we can just print more money and give everyone that doesn't have enough money. Why don't we just do that instead of paying taxes? Inflation is legal counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is criminal inflation. So central banking is a coordinated currency counterfeiting cartel that runs the world. It's a band-aid. You know what Milton Friedman said about inflation is that it's just like alcoholism. The good effects come early. You print the money, you have the drink, you feel good. The hangover comes later. The same is true of inflation. Every time the crisis comes, you have to print exponentially more money because there are exponentially more liabilities in the system from the last round of printing. And so this is why it's unsustainable, and this is why it always culminates in hyperinflation, because the central bank has not only the precedent but also the incentive to continue printing the money until the currency hyperinflates into worthlessness.
I've been on planet Earth for 43 days now, and I've learned in that time that human beings actually exchange their time and energy for something that they call currency. This currency can then be traded for goods and services, and the more currency that anyone has, the better they are viewed in society. What I've seen in my reporting, though, is that the numerical amount of currency that any human has is not related in any way to how nice of a person they are. As everyone who lives on planet Coark knows, we have more of a heart-based merit system for our society, and it works out very well. Our technology is, of course, far more advanced than human technology, which lags by about 7,000 years. Unfortunately, humans are not quite at the level of being able to judge each other based on the true kindness in their hearts, so they are still stuck with dollars. The government systems here are set up so that humans of many types need to work multiple jobs in order to make enough money to live in their home, afford food, healthcare, and other necessities. Additionally, the foods available to those with less currency are often highly processed and full of chemicals compared to nutritious whole food products that are way more expensive. And while this has all been very depressing for me to witness, I will say I'm very happy with the timing of my trip and this reporting, because it seems as though the masses are rising up and a revolution is stirring. Stay tuned to find out what happens next on planet Earth.
Propaganda is not education. Propaganda, on whether it's TikTok or in the classroom, is actually the opposite of education. Anybody who is teaching in a university, or anyone who is putting content on social media, should be held responsible for what they include and what they exclude. And so much of what we're seeing, particularly on TikTok, about what's going on in the Middle East is woefully false, but it's also incredibly slanted pro-Hamas, anti-Israel. And it is, not any place where anyone should go to get information about complex matters like what is going on there.
And propaganda is not 33,000 emails deleted from your private server. Question mark? Now, the reality is, I don't care what they call it. I don't care if they call it propaganda or fake news. The reality is, there are so many people, especially in America, that have woken up to the atrocities taking place all over the world. Palestinians had been going through what they were going through for 75 years. Some of us that were aware and on top of the issue, we know what's been going on, but majority of the world did not. What's been going on in Congo has been going on since the early 2000s. Some people are just finding out about it. Some people already knew. So we're not going to talk about propaganda. TikTok is an educational platform. So many people are waking up. And I can see if it was one thing, right? I can see if it was just somebody making a video from their car, like I'm doing now, somebody making a video saying this is what's going on. It's not propaganda when the person is showing you the video in real time. It's not propaganda when the person doesn't have time to edit the video because they could lose their life at any moment. It's not propaganda when the person is making the video scared because they worried about somebody seeing them and taking their phone or an explosion happening right next to them as they're recording. What we are seeing is in real time. What we are learning is in real time. Whether it's the situations in the Middle East, whether it's the situations with processes, whether it's the situations with laws, people are waking up. And a big part of that waking up is because of TikTok. No app has done what TikTok has done. Even YouTube didn't do what TikTok did. YouTube helped so many of us. YouTube helped us learn how to tie ties. YouTube learned how to help us change tires. YouTube taught us how to do all of these amazing things, right? DIY. But TikTok, not only did TikTok teach us how to do these amazing things, but TikTok opened our eyes to the atrocities of what's going on in the world, as well as many good things that's going on in the world. TikTok has helped us learn about culture. TikTok has helped us learn about history, about people, about processes, about how to get money, about art, about situations or events that may be taking place in our locations of things that we might like. So don't ever try to come and blame TikTok for propaganda when TikTok is propagating the truth. Bars. Bars in the comment section right now. Bars. If you write bars in the comment section, I know you made it to this point. Let's freaking go.
Did you know that you really don't own your children? I'm going to show you how the United States government systematically took over parental rights and how they treat everyone as wards of the state. Book reference. Abolition of the family. With personal rights, private property, and the church abolished, to make subjection complete, the state declares that in pure collectivism, there could be no family ties, for children, like all other property, are an asset of the community and must be robbed of family love and obligation as a necessary step to loyalty to the state. So when you see they're passing laws trying to make parental rights obsolete, this is what they're talking about and this is their agenda. It's all part of a socialist, collectivist government type agenda. Marriage may be practiced if conscience insists, but it is not demanded in the interest of the new society. For with the abolishment of personal rights, private property, church, and home, society no longer possesses a moral, ethical, or spiritual code. And when you blur the lines of morality, you get the social ills and injustices that we face as a society today. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low-class elements of the society must be brought under total control, i.e. must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long-term social duties from a very early age, before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare, aka school, centers for the occupationally orphaned children. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the moat of ignorance, isolating the inferior class from the superior class, is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. And this is how they separate the families, by getting the children to be at school all day and have the parents working 9 to 5, so you don't have any time to form a social unit amongst your own families. Side note, this is why they go so hard against homeschooling, because homeschooling negates socialism or any governmental interference in the household, and so it keeps the power with the parents where it rightfully belongs. Denial of personal rights. Collectivism is a denial of personal rights. The state becomes the chief concern of all. It claims that the law of equality, once applied, would destroy every human desire for individual dominance, making society safe, content, comfortable, and happy. So under socialism or collectivism, the state acts as your parents. Now in law, that's called in locus parentis or parens patriae. In locus parentis, in the place of a parent, instead of a parent, charged factitiously with a parent's rights, duties, and responsibilities. Parens patriae. In the United States, the state as a sovereign referring to the sovereign power of guardianship over persons under disabilities, such as minors and insane and incompetent persons. And this is how and why you technically don't own your children.
Did you just wave at me?
Yes?
How did you see me?
With my eyes?
No, how could you possibly see me? I was running faster than the speed of light.
Well, when I turn on a light in a dark room, I could see it go from dark to light. It's crazy. It's like a superpower I have or something.
Wait, you just see a room go from dark to light?
No.
How you were able to see me when I was moving faster than— Wow.
This solar eclipse happening next month could fulfill a 2,000-year-old Bible prophecy. On April 8th, a once-in-a-lifetime solar eclipse is going to plunge certain parts of America into total darkness during the middle of the day. The shocking part is this eclipse is going to be passing through 8 towns called Nineveh, which is the city recorded in the Bible where the prophet Jonah warned them about the wrath of God to come. This will also be taking place under the constellation Cetus, which means the whale. As many of you know, the prophet Jonah was swallowed by a whale before being spit onto the shore to go preach repentance to Nineveh. Jesus says in Matthew 16:4, "A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah." Ancient history also shows that right before Nineveh repented in the Bible story of Jonah, there was a total solar eclipse called the 𝓑ᴇʟᴇᴜ eclipse, which was one of the astronomical phenomena that caused an entire pagan city to repent from their pagan practices and turn back to the true God Yahweh. This solar eclipse was also engraved in ancient Assyrian archaeological findings, further verifying that an astronomical event took place during this time. America has abandoned God and fully embraced perverse secular values, and this eclipse very well may be a sign from the heavens that the doors for repentance are closing.
What are you most excited about right now? Like in your work, what are you this is the stuff I'm the most excited about right now.
That's easy.
Your face just changed too, by the way, when I asked you.
It's easy.
Yeah.
So we published a year ago on the cover of Nature magazine, which is the highlight of any scientist's career, that we could reset the age of a complex tissue. We chose the mouse's eye. We let mice get old and blind, and we reprogrammed their eye using these 3 genes. They're called O, S, and K for short.
Yeah.
And we turned the age back 80%, and they were able to see again. And so what we're talking about is having found that there's a reset switch in the body to be young again, and the information in the body to be young is still there. So theoretically, you could take someone who's 100 years old and reset their body to be young again. Now, the exciting thing is we've been doing clinical trials, or preclinical trials, and there's no apparent downside to this.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah, and so I went home that day and I said, "Hey, we've cured blindness," and my family went, "Yeah, can you just unpack the dishwasher?" That was a sad day. That's when I knew I could never impress my family. But we have been working ever since. So we first made this discovery about 3 years ago. It ended up being in my book, a little bit of it, and it was a thrill to make this discovery. But since then, we've been doing the hard work, which is to figure out, is it safe enough to put into humans? And we're now testing it in non-human primates just to see if it's safe.
My gosh.
And if all goes well, in the next 2 years, we'll hopefully cure blindness in people.
That is absolutely freaking incredible. That is absolutely bananas.
But it gets better.
Okay.
The eye was just something we chose. I didn't think it would work any better in the eye. In fact, I thought it'd probably work worse. But we found that there's a universal reset switch. So you can reset different parts of the body. You can reset the skin. We've shown you can reset muscle. You can reset, what have we done? The skin was easy. So using the same genes. So we're just basically turning on an embryonic program in older people or middle-aged, in their cells and in mice, and they get young again. What does this mean? This means one day it's going to be possible to reset the age of the body. We've done that. We've done that in mice. Now the question is, how soon can we get it into ourselves?
That's bananas. Is there? Here's the guy that grew up with skeptics all over his house. Let's assume that that's true. Did everyone just hear what he just said? By the way, that we may be able to reset the age of a human. We've already been able to do this now in other organisms. That's a minute to just process that, right? And as I process it, I go, "Wow, that's exciting. I hope I can live long enough so that I can reset my clock."
That's the key,
right?
The stuff we've talked about today.
Yeah.
The eating, the exercise, what's the other thing? Hot, cold. These are designed, and the supplements, to keep us all alive until this technology becomes available. Because it's not just one thing to slow down aging, which we can do pretty easily just by doing these lifestyle changes, but to reset the age. There's a study from UCLA that showed.
Jeez Louise, that's crazy.
It gets crazier. There's a study by Steve Horvath and Greg Fahey. It was published during the first few months of the pandemic. They treated people for a year with a combination of metformin, a bit of growth hormone, and DHEA to offset some of the problems with growth hormone that can cause type 2 diabetes. And they found that when they measured the clock of the body, it went back by about 2 years. And at the time I thought, yeah, okay, 2 years, that's not a lot. But then I started thinking, if you could do that every year.
Right.
That'd be pretty interesting.
You're literally aging in reverse.
Right. And I don't know about immortality. I'd just be happy with an extra 10 years of healthy life, or even 2 years. But we're at a point now where we're able to control aging pretty easily. In my lab, we can drive aging forwards and backwards in mice at will. Aging is malleable now that we have an understanding of how it's controlled and what causes it. And we even have mini brains in the lab. We can take human cells. So, Ed, I can take your skin cells. I can make them into stem cells that are pluripotent, meaning I can make anything from you. If I wanted to, and this is not kidding, I could make a sperm out of your skin cells and an egg and fertilize that.
So you can clone me.
I could
exist in my old timeline. What did CERN do?
The world will be engulfed with fire. God covered the world first with water. In the end, He will cover it with fire. He'll burn it. Because of the sin of mankind, humanity has gone totally evil. Evil. Even in the church. I beg you, I'm not saying don't go out at all, but I am saying one thing, please hear me out. I'm saying whatever you do, let Jesus be with you. Let the Lord be with you. Don't walk away. Don't fall for the temptations of the world and all you care about is you. How you look, how you dress, what you eat, what you drink, and how you travel, in what kind of a car and a house you live and drive. Enough of materialism. Wake up, wake up, wake up, for the time is at hand. We need to come back and kneel before the Lord, praying, begging Him for mercy, begging Him for forgiveness, begging Him for His loving kindness, for the time is near.
Why does it feel like we are living in a freaking episode of Black Mirror? This is crazy. Check out this video from the World Economic Forum. It is absolutely insane.
Even you can't believe how productive you've been. Your memo is finished, your inbox is under control, and you're feeling sharper than you have in a decade. Sensing your joy, your playlist shifts to your favorite song, sending chills up your spine as the music begins to play. You glance at the program running in the background on your computer screen and notice a now familiar sight that appears whenever you're overloaded with pleasure. Your theta brainwave activity decreasing in the temporal regions of your brain. You mentally move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. See your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. But what's that unusual change in your brain activity when you're asleep? It started earlier in the month. You sent a text message to your doctor with a mental swipe of your cursor. Could you take a quick look at my brain data? Anything to worry about? Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little.
This is a real video.
But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present.
What the?
You breathe a sigh of relief when the email she sends you later that day congratulates you on your brain metrics from the past quarter, which have earned you another performance bonus. You head home jamming to the music, with your work-issued brain-sensing earbuds still in. When you arrive at work the next day, a somber cloud has fallen over the office. Along with emails, text messages, and GPS location data,
This is insane.
the government has subpoenaed employees' brainwave data from the past year.
This is the World Economic
They have
Forum.
compelling
This
evidence
is
that one of your
stupid.
coworkers has committed massive wire fraud. Now, they're looking for his co-conspirators. You discover they are looking for synchronized brain activity between your coworker and the people he has been working with.
What?
While you know you're innocent of
hell?
any crime, you've been secretly working with him on
They're
a new startup
looking at
venture.
your brain waves.
Shaking, you remove your earbuds.
What do you think? Is it a future you're ready for? You may be surprised to learn that it's a future that has already arrived.
Find truth, all you can do is find false, drop it and get rid of it, and eventually when you can't get rid of any more false, what you're left with is the truth. How much false can you find? And there's lots in history. I was looking around the internet and came across the images of the 1893 Chicago World Exposition, and it blew my mind because it looked like ancient Rome in the middle of downtown Chicago. And as I looked at it further, well, here's another one in Philadelphia, here's another one in St. Louis, in Buffalo, in San Francisco, and then as soon as they were done, they tore them all down and threw them in the garbage. That just told me there's something wrong with all of these. The story of the expositions is a gigantic lie. And I think it's so huge of a lie because I think they're right at a bridge point when so many things about the 1800s that seem strange and weird, right as this sort of period ends of unbelievable strangeness, and all of a sudden these fairs spring up all over the world with impossible buildings we're talking about, which are colossal structures. Chicago built 700 acres of fair in supposedly less than 2 years. St. Louis built 1,200 acres of exposition buildings. One of the buildings in Chicago, the manufacturer's building, would house 300,000 people. There's a giant statue in the middle of the lagoon. It was called the Golden Lady, and it was known as the Statue of the Republic. It was 65 feet tall. They say it was covered in gold leaf that had copper underneath, but others speculate it was actually made out of solid gold. So you're talking 65-foot high, potentially solid gold statue. We're talking giant structures and looking like ancient Rome with towers and domes and columns and the most fine, ornate pieces to them in these record, unbelievable times. Then as soon as they're done, chuck them in the garbage. Like Jackson Park is a swamp. So supposedly they had to drive down tens of thousands of wooden stakes in order to support the weight of everything. They dug out massive lagoons, lakes. They had a canal system that ran through the entire exposition. They also had an above-ground electric train. An electric train, well, where's the electricity coming from? That's running around the park. They had a moving walkway down by the shore. Not enough people are asking, where does this technology come from?
Just to frame it, if I'm not mistaken, the Chicago Fair was the first time people had seen electric light.
Tesla's the one who got the electricity contract for the Chicago Exposition, and it was certainly more than all of the lights anyway that were in New York City at the time were at the Chicago Exposition.
Now, it must have been mind-blowing for most of those people who had only seen gaslight or candlelight at night to see that city lit up in such a way. Again, count the ways, it's 1901. we are told, whether it's true or not, the idea of being able to electrically do anything hasn't been around that long.
And this fair is bizarre. This is supposed to be Tesla's fair, where he managed to somehow move electricity from Niagara Falls to Buffalo for the fair. No one's really explained how he actually did that. And at the middle of the fair is a 395-foot-high electrical tower, on top of which, of course, is a female golden statue called the Goddess of Light. And this thing was lit up by, some suggest, 500,000 electric light bulbs. Again, when you look at the photos of this thing, it's just, where do they really get the power from?
I mean, think of what it would take today if you had a place with no electricity and no way to pipe it in, the generators that would have to be built.
For example, there's a building that went up for the Barcelona exposition in 1888. It was claimed to be the fastest built building in the world, 5,000 square meters, capacity for 2,000 guests, 600 rooms, 30 apartments, and it was supposed to be built in 53 days. This is supposed to be a time of horse and buggy. The 2-year building times are actually impossible unless the two most likely theories would be either A, they had a technology that they're not supposed to have, and it really was built in that time frame. Even if they built them, they had to build them out of marble and stone in record time, or the buildings were already there. They'd been there for hundreds or thousands of years, fixed up, refurbished, repainted, hence the term whitewashed, which is the term that was used for the Chicago Exposition, which was paint all the buildings with this brand new spray paint that they had just developed to spray paint all the buildings in record time, so you couldn't tell if anything was old or anything was new.
How long did these things tend to stay open? When they built these things, supposedly over 2 years, which is the narrative, how long were they there for?
6 months.
6 months for the public to come.
And then what was amazing, for example, in St. Louis, 2 days after the fair ended, they brought in a demolition team from Chicago with explosives and blew the thing up. They actually used dynamite to blow it up, and they say threw it in landfills. Things like the World Fairs shows there was a time in our past, and even not that far in our past, where humans seemed to be at a completely higher level. Human living and human knowledge were constructed into the buildings using cymatics, using sacred geometry. These fairs, they're so important to study because the history that we know right now as history was invented at the time these fairs were going on. One of their underlying nefarious purposes was to teach a historical narrative to the population that they were supposed to believe and agree with. And scarily, the world we're walking into today is in some way has its origins